Hello. What would Middle-earth have looked like if Sauron had won? What would the story be if King's Landing had fallen to the Night King? And what kind of games could you play in a Warhammer world where chaos conquered, controlled, and corrupted the entire planet? Broken Weave lets you explore those very questions, and many more like them. A post-apocalyptic, tragic fantasy RPG that takes place in a world where evil has won. Magic is utterly broken, and reality itself is decaying beyond all recognition. The weave unravels. The gods are dead, the lands are shattered, and the world has begun to forget what it once was. Time and distance have lost their meaning, and the knowledge of how things once were crumbles like ash. Those who remain struggle to survive in a shattered world overcome by decay, an entropic force which eats at our memories, reshapes the world, and twists people into nightmarish abominations. Recently released by Cubicle 7 and built on D&D's 5th edition rules, I have been sent a copy of this intriguing game so that I can explore its unique setting and share any insights I can gather on its dark, dangerous decay. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and today we're exploring the world of Broken Weave. I have played and loved a great many RPGs over the years, and one genre that is ironically good fun to return to time and time again in both fantasy and sci-fi is the post-apocalyptic setting, one that might be seen as dreary or dark or grim in many different ways, can actually promote some of the just most fun gameplay you can imagine, some of the best campaigns. Whether that is a dark sun or a dying earth or a Numenera or Gamma World even, there are so many fun stories that can be explored in the very end of humanity, the very end of the good guys. The bad guys have won, the calamity has happened, and all that's left is hope. In Broken Weave, we're presented with a new vision of this genre, a magical world of high fantasy that has succumbed to some catastrophic calamity. The gods are now dead, magic is utterly broken, reality is fraying at the edges, mutated monstrosities stalk the wastelands, and colossal, almost unkillable titans stride across the blighted landscapes. All that remains to combat this decay are the small groups of survivors who have banded together for safety, building havens and societies, communities, to protect themselves and each other, and to spread hope, tiny specks of light in that vast darkness of a lost world. The game is designed and published by Cubicle 7. As many of you may know, I'm a huge fan of their work with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition and Soulbound, the Age of Sigmar RPG. I'm also writing a book for Cubicle 7's Victoriana RPG. So when they sent me a copy of Broken Weave to play with, I was super excited to check it out. But I've got to be clear, this is categorically not a review. This is just my overview of the world and some of the coolest concepts and mechanics that leapt out at me as I read the book. Right, all of that out of the way, let's talk post-apocalyptic fantasy role-playing and how this game can power inconceivable settings like a post-chaos victory Warhammer world or a Middle-earth where Sauron claimed the One Ring. The Kickstarter launch for Broken Weave listed a few inspirations for the game, the likes of Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Colossus, Annihilation, and the Dark Tower series. And those inspirations can very much be seen in the landscapes, structures, and encroaching darkness presented as the game's world. The look and feel of this book absolutely captures a place where decay has all but overtaken everything. Settlements are built in the remains of the dead gods. Time, space, gravity, and everything else we take for granted are regularly upended and reconstituted. The idea of decay is one of the core concepts in Broken Weave, and it features heavily in the new mechanics of character creation, experience, and death introduced in the book. There are plenty of traditional lineages like human, dwarf, or elf, but there are character classes like the diplomatic speakers, the protective guardians, and the decay-damned harrowed that add new flavors. Over time, decay is accrued through exposure to the flora, fauna, and monsters of this world. It can cause memories to be lost, plagues of nightmarish dreams, physical changes, and ultimately even a complete transformation into a monstrous creature, an intelligent slime, or perhaps just a wisp of smoke fading from existence. The use of magic, or at least the fragile remnants of magic, can be extremely dangerous, and I really like how certain character classes can ultimately be consumed by it. There's even built-in rules for heroic sacrifices and legendary actions in the face of complete damnation that I can imagine making for some super memorable encounters. Even the simple act of traveling doesn't go unaffected by decay. You can encounter hazards like pockets of extreme time dilation, so that you arrive many centuries after you left, even though it felt like just a couple of days. And there's impossible geometry that can be just as dangerous as any monster or titan. Though the game is built on and is compatible with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, it's stuff like decay, both narratively and mechanically, that sets Broken Weave apart from traditional D&D adventuring. But with all of that entropic destruction taking its toll on characters and their world, how do you stop a game like this from becoming just too bleak and grim to enjoy? Well, that is where the Haven system comes in. Before you even build your character, the whole party works together to build their haven. Collectively, you determine the origins and founders of the haven, what they were working towards, who is in charge, what culture and community they've built, and how they handle the regular crises that befall them. Is it a beneficent place that welcomes all, or does it jealously guard its resources and make war with its few neighbours? The havens can help PCs generate hope, and hope is what can counter, or at the very least slow down the effects of decay. One major type of crisis that a haven might face is the emergence and arrival of a titan, enormously huge colossi that can stamp out a haven in a single bound. There are only 2 titans covered in detail in the core book, but damn are they cool. The Rotbringer and the Dreamer. With them, they bring titanic corruption and devastating challenges for any party who wants to protect their haven. Will you try and fight them, uproot the entire haven and flee, or take bolder and perhaps more foolish steps like trying to capture them? There is promise of more titans in the wider world, and one features in the introductory adventure that comes with the GM screen. And though they are just one aspect of the Broken Weave game, I expect folk will have a lot of fun creating and fighting them. The core book provides a wealth of information for running Broken Weave as its own setting, a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. There is loads of equipment and locations, and a bestiary full of awesome monsters, talents, and plenty of other mechanisms that you can use to build your characters specifically for this Broken Weave universe. But baked into the premise of the game, there is also a very cool aspect that I am really fond of. The end of your world. You can use Broken Weave to present a post-apocalyptic version of any fantasy world or campaign setting. Maybe the heroes failed in their quest and the Dark Lord returned, or a great 5-headed dragon scorched the lands and slew the gods. So it's actually in the game's design, in its very DNA, that you could use it to imagine and play in existing fantasy worlds in a post-apocalyptic state. So you could take Sauron and you could have him claim the One Ring, take over Middle-earth, destroy everything, and then play in that world, explore what that eventuality might look like. And as you may know, I'm a huge fan of Warhammer. I love the Warhammer world, and I love various stories about its ending. I think the Storm of Chaos, and to a lesser degree, the End Times, present interesting narratives. And what happens after those, to me, is most interesting as a world that persists. It's not necessarily destroyed by chaos, but it's completely corrupted by it. And in that world, I think there are some fascinating stories to tell. You could explore it in such a way where the Empire, the Elves, the Dwarves, their realms have been ruined and completely destroyed. The Slan Mage Priests, in a desperate attempt to close the realm of chaos off from the world, have broken the winds of magic totally. There is none of the traditional expected realms and empires and stuff like that, but the echoes of it still remain. This is a world many generations on from Archaon's victory, where what's left of those races, the elves, the humans, the dwarves, the halflings, they have taken to these tiny settlements, these pinpricks of light in a vast darkness, and they are fighting against the decaying, chaotic monstrosities, the titans, that walk over what once was the old world, but now is just the remnants of it. That is a setting that I think would be really, really fun to run with Broken Weave. I absolutely would play that game. For me, Broken Weave sits in a very nice roster of Cubicle 7 fantasy games. Wolfrup lets you play amazing games in the Warhammer world. Soulbound allows for post-apocalyptic high fantasy and heroic magic after the Warhammer world has been obliterated. But Broken Weave offers up the flip side of the coin Malleus, a Warhammer world lost to chaos, but not out of the fight just yet. I don't want to be super reductive because I think Broken Weave has a lot to offer on its own merits. It's not just about using it as a tool to explore other IPs. I just think, for me, that is a really powerful part of its toolkit. There is so much cool stuff that a creative, innovative GM could do to bring to life any existing fantasy setting in a post-apocalyptic era. Or even, as they suggest in the actual book, you could take your own fantasy campaign, your own setting, seed in it all of the sort of the tales of what might happen in a post-apocalyptic world, and then if your heroes fail to stop the bad guy at the end of your campaign, you can jump forward in time to what happens after that bad guy has won. And you can pick up those threads that you've seeded through your campaign and really explore them in a very cool way. I just think that that is an awesome pitch for a game. Anyway, that is how I would use Broken Weave. There is a heck of a lot more material in the book that I still need to read and enjoy, so I'm going to end this here. What I will add is that I'm going to soon be doing a Broken Weave giveaway on my Patreon. It's free to enter, you just need to be a member of my Patreon. So go via the link in the description below, sign up, you'll get regular updates from me, and if you want to join a paid tier on my Patreon, you will also get more updates and behind the scenes stuff, exclusive and early access to content, access to my Discord, and hopefully some other fun stuff there as well. We're building a really fun community, and I'm very grateful for the support. So please go and check out my Patreon if you can. Thank you once again to Cubicle 7 for sending me a copy of Broken Weave. Thank you for watching. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery. Right, since getting these books, I have not been able to stop thinking about how this can lead to this, and what a cool campaign that would be. Ooh, it's very tempting.